Hello, this is Kay from Made in Peace, and today I'm going to film a tutorial for you on how to take these paint chips and transform them into these 7-pointed stars. They're really wonderful for decor, and I actually made a garland of them for my most recent birthday, which you'll see a clip of here. So let's get started. The first thing we will need to do is to make our guide or template piece. You can make one out of just standard printer paper. However, I made this one out of a paint chip as I cut literally hundreds of these diamonds. I will have this linked below as a PDF form if you want to just print it out, or the measurements and the angles for how to make your own and have it be proportional to mine are shown on screen. Okay, our next step is to take our pile of petals, if you will, and form them into triplicates. And we're going to do this via the use of packing tape. So I'm going to take a piece of packing tape. It can be fairly short. It probably doesn't need to be more than maybe 1.25 inches. And I'm going to take this tape and stick it on the back side of one of our petals. And the most important part is that this tape extends along the full edge. Packing tape is going to be much more secure than Scotch tape and is going to just give you a stronger hold, which is important for the structural tension of this star. And then we are going to flip over some of the neighboring petals and line up that tip and stick them together. Your triplicates are not going to be perfect. You're going to have some variation. I always try to get the tips pretty lined up personally, but you're going to have some variation in the shape of your petals, both due to human error and the fact that that's just how the paint chips come. So now we're going to repeat this process until we have 4 triplicates. Next, we have 4 triplicates and 2 individual panels. So we are going to repeat that process by forming stars of 7. So I'm going to take 2 of my triplicates, flip them over, and then position one of my remaining panels in between. I'm going to then secure these with tape the same way we form the triplicates, and this will form my side of 7. So there is number 1. And there is number 2. As I said before, these aren't going to line up perfectly. Paint chips themselves have some variety. There's going to be some human error. The whole idea is that as long as we get them close enough to the overall shape we're going for, we'll be able to form them into our stars. The next step is going to be crimping these in order to form these ridges, which we see here. You can use a ruler, and I definitely have used a ruler, although I personally prefer to use the edge of my cutting tool. So all we're going to do is we're going to flip our star over, make sure that there's no blades in the way, and then we are going to simply slide our star there. Now, my cutting tool has an edge right here or has a bump out, so I like to always choose one spot that I know my apex of the star or the center of the star is going to be. And then I simply slide until the outer point also falls along my line, and then I am going to simply fold it. You might get some discoloration at the fold just due to the nature of how these paint chips are constructed, but as long as it is approximately center, like this one is here, it will work. And then we are simply going to complete this process, rotating throughout the entire star. And now I choose to go through and just crimp or crease each of these one more time at the center, just to ensure that they're going to be extra malleable for when we connect them. Okay everyone, we are now in the home stretch. So I have both of my creased halves. I'm going to flip them over, take a small piece of packing tape, and secure that last remaining edge. As you can see, neither of our stars truly wants to lay flat or to lay in our 7-pointed formation very easily. And this is actually a really good sign because this sort of tension is what gives it volume. However, it does mean we have to work with it. So I choose to secure these by taking one piece of our packing tape and cutting it into thirds. You could likely also use a hot glue gun for this process. However, I do not own one. So we are working with what we have available to us. So the final step is we are going to take our stars and turn them face to face. And we're going to start by securing just one of our 7 points. So in this case, I think I'm going to secure our bright blue and our hot pink together. So I am just going to hold them and line them up so they are point to point and also inner corner to inner corner. Secure the tape on one side and then make sure it is pulled taut so that we don't have it collapsing inward, which is also what these stars could want to do. And there. So now we have at least one of our points is fully edge to edge. And then from there, I'm going to move around the star. I find that if you move directly to the neighbors, it can end up, when you reach your 7th point, being a little bit wonky. So I instead try to go for something either 2 or 3 points away from what I've already secured, because then if I have to adjust anything, I can catch it early. So I'm going to connect this orange to this burgundy color, secure our tape, pull it taut, and find a good angle to get them edge to edge, and then secure them. And then as always, I'm going to use 2 pieces of tape to make sure that it is secured on either side. And now here is our star. As you can see, we might have some points which either don't line up fantastically or there's just a little bit of an odd tension there. So option 1 is, of course, you can just display the better looking side. That is what I tend to do when I'm making a garland, because one side's facing the wall, the other side is facing outwards, and I just display the side I like more. A couple troubleshooting things you can do is you can always take your scissors and simply trim any points that are poking out. Also, if you have a point that, say, like this white one or this pink one, that isn't lining up great, of course, option 1 is you can just take some tape or some hot glue and secure them point to point. The other option I like to use is when I'm making a garland. So let's say we're using this yarn. I will simply take a larger piece of our packing tape, secure it to one side of our star, place our yarn at that tippy top of the star and fold our packing tape over while holding our star point in place. And voila! If you would like to support me, I'd be so honored if you would hit subscribe and like so I can keep making these videos in the future.